A motorist struck a cyclist in Albuquerque, New Mexico, early on May 29, 2024, in a hit-and-run incident that stunned the city. It was a cruel incident, and the case soon went cold. A man with serious injuries and a damaged bike, no leads, no witnesses. But when investigators thought the case couldn't get any worse, they stumbled across a video recorded by an 11-year-old child. This video would not only reveal the awful truth behind the accident, but also propel one of the youngest and most dangerous criminals into the focus. A lady phoned 911 at about 4:40 a.m. to describe what she believed was an accident involving a female cyclist. As she described the scene, a bike in the middle of the road and a woman on the side of the road, possibly unconscious, her voice shook. She remarked that the cyclist was hardly moving, but looked to be curled up a little bit, which might imply the victim was still alive. While the dispatcher tried to gather further information, the lady voiced reluctance about moving closer to the victim. Police reacted quickly, even if the specifics were unclear. They arrived at the site only to discover something far worse than they had expected. The lady mistook the victim for a woman. The body on the road was that of a man, 63-year-old Scott Happermell. He had been struck with such power that he lay motionless, unconscious, and profusely bleeding from his head. His helmet, which probably saved his life, had severe damage. Rising as a terrible witness to the intensity of the collision, the crushed bicycle was twisted and bent out of shape. Confusion followed here. Though unable to provide clear facts, some witnesses saw the accident from a distance. The officers saw how terrible the injuries were as they evaluated Scott's condition. At least he was still breathing, even if he wasn't answering their inquiries. Even with treatment, his wounds were so severe that they worried he wouldn't make it. He was rushed to the hospital in a last-ditch effort to save his life, but regrettably, Scott passed away from his injuries. Police started to comb the area since there were no direct witnesses and no clues about the vehicle involved. Scattered pieces pointed to the accident happening further down the road. Fragments of Scott's helmet, shoe prints, and pieces of the bike were among the wreckage. Though there was no sight of the car, neither was there any definite clue to the cause of such severe damage. Little assistance came from surveillance footage taken from a neighboring house. The footage was too grainy to detect any specifics of the car that had hit Scott. Though it was small, it was their lone clue. Police discovered a silver Hyundai sedan abandoned half a mile from the scene hours later, at 7:25 a.m. The ignition had been damaged, which suggested it had been involved in a collision, and the automobile window was cracked. The car had also been reported missing, but there was yet no driver sighted. Making things even worse, the video footage recorded from neighboring cameras was not effective in finding the car or its license plate. It was a setback. The investigation slowed down over the next few weeks. Although detectives went over the case numerous times, they could not proceed without fresh witnesses or proof. September 2024 saw the formal closing of the case. At that point, detectives were unsure who had caused Scott's passing. It looked to be another cold case until a February 2025 tip would completely transform everything. A startling tip came from an anonymous source. A video showing the deadly accident had been uploaded on Instagram. The cops were informed. An 11-year-old named Messiah, who was the one behind the camera, had uploaded the video. This finding shocked researchers right away. Messiah's Instagram account showed far more than only the crash video. Pranks, stealing, and a chilling absence of remorse filled this other unsettling stuff. Among the videos was one in which Messiah could be spotted waving a pistol beside two other boys, 15-year-old William Williams and 13-year-old Jonathan Overbay. The video, captured from inside the stolen car, clearly showed the moment Scott was hit. As the car sped towards Scott, Messiah, sitting in the front passenger seat, could be observed gripping a firearm. In the rear were the two other youngsters, William and Jonathan. The video stunned me both for the terrible crash and the children involved's lack of remorse. Messiah grinned as the camera zoomed in on Scott's lifeless body. "See where I hit him? See?" he mocked. His entire face went boom. It was hard to understand. Some were no older than 11 or 15. How could these young boys be engaged in such a violent crime? Messiah's Instagram profile showed past problematic behavior. There were videos chronicling several thefts, including one where Messiah stole a Ring camera from another person's house. The account also had pictures of others reporting his crimes, yet no one had ever stepped in. Messiah appeared to be encouraged by his capacity to go unpunished for these actions. From a minor protest, quickly grew into something much more serious. Investigators turned their attention to Messiah right away. They came to learn that he shared Michael's house. When police arrived at the home, they carried out a safety check to make sure there were no other people inside. Though he was less than thrilled about the investigation, Michael, Messiah's uncle, cooperated. As the investigation developed, it became apparent that Messiah had engaged in several criminal activities. He was under suspicion of car theft, house burglary, and possibly even carrying out a shooting. He admitted to the shooting in one text message. But detectives at that time had no notion that Messiah's deeds had gone far beyond their original expectations. The disclosure that an 11-year-old could be engaged in such a series of violent crimes stunned police. They came to realize that Messiah was uncomfortably obsessed with guns. He had stolen guns and even contemplated robbing gun stores. Further proof from his phone logs and Instagram account confirmed that he was strongly linked to a dangerous world of criminal behavior. Messiah was not the only one involved in the collision, however. Before, William, the 15-year-old in the rear seat, had been in trouble with the law. He asked a lawyer when the police started interrogating him. His parents were informed, and they showed worry about the accusations, yet they made it plain that William would not speak to law enforcement without legal representation. Meanwhile, the 13-year-old Jonathan was likewise questioned. Though he was on probation for a prior offense, Jonathan was about to become involved in something much more heinous. More information came out as the investigation went on. 15-year-old Elijah Engelking was discovered to be a fourth passenger in the automobile at the time of the accident. Though Elijah had before denied any involvement, the evidence showed he had been with the others when Scott was struck. Investigators put together evidence confirming his presence in the car from the video's voice. Elijah was eventually charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and leaving the scene of the accident. Although the authorities were concentrating on Messiah and the other boys, they were also investigating the bigger picture of the offenses they had been committing. During questioning, it came to light that Messiah and his buddies had taken part in several crimes, including car thefts, burglaries, and even planning violent events. They were a deadly group of young criminals who had no respect for the law or for the lives of others, not only children making bad choices. For every one of the suspects, the legal process began as the investigation went on. Though still young, Messiah was charged with an open count of murder related to Scott's passing. He was transferred into the Children's Youth and Family Services Department's custody. William and Jonathan were both accused of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and leaving the scene of the accident. While Jonathan's case stayed in the juvenile system, Williams was sent to adult court. First-degree murder and conspiracy charges were brought against Elijah, who initially denied any participation. Everyone involved felt greatly affected by this case. Although tragic, Scott's death exposed the startling increase of young offenders eager to engage in violent acts without hesitation. The legal system would have to address the increasing problem of juvenile crime as seriously as it would handle adult offenses. For Scott's family, knowing that the individuals responsible for his death were so young worsened their grief. In the months following, the suspects were punished legally. Their day in court belonged to Messiah, William, Jonathan, and Elijah. Some confessed, while others went on trial. This case would be a turning point in how many people view teenage crime. It was about understanding how children, sometimes as young as 11, might be pulled into such a vicious world, not only punishing those responsible. Scott Happermell's passing deeply affected the Albuquerque population. It reminded me of how rapidly a life can be ended and of how much younger the people responsible might be than anyone ever envisioned. The case revealed not only the grim reality of crime, but also the unsettling truth about the increasing involvement of kids in violent activities. The video posted by Messiah had been the means of revealing a terrible tale that would haunt the neighborhood forever. The issue remains: how can we stop more tragic events of this sort as the legal process goes on? How do we tackle the underlying reasons behind juvenile delinquency and ensure that youngsters like Messiah do not wind up murdering more innocent lives? Tell us your thoughts in the comments if this case surprised you. Like and subscribe for more real-life crime tales and information on current investigations. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.